In Destroy All Humans, you play as an alien who is sent down to Earth to harvest DNA, mind control people, take over the planet, and in general destroy all humans. The game is actually a remake of a game that came out 15 years ago. The game in general is not very good. The missions are short, the design is dated, the humor is old, the audio is from the original game, which is neat, but it too sounds like it. It begs the simple question, why was this made? It looks great, characters are updated, textures, lighting, animations, cutscenes, all improved massively. But just because it's pretty doesn't change the fact that it's not a very good game to start with. Why are so many games being remastered, remade, or rebooted? Why are we paying to play games we've already played and may even still own? Now don't get me wrong, some remakes are great, like Final Fantasy VII, a game which completely rebuilt, redesigned, and reimagined the way you consume the story. This is a good example of a true remake. But so many others fall so short of this. Most of them are simply unnecessary. The Last of Us Remastered was released a year after the original. And it wasn't like the original was hurt by poor graphics or gameplay. In fact, at the time, it was heralded as an example of why we didn't need next-gen consoles. The Last of Us Remastered added a few things like 60 FPS, improved resolution, and a photo mode. But ultimately, the gameplay, story, cutscenes, and the rest were completely unchanged. The game was exactly the same. The same is true about Burnout Paradise, a game which worked perfectly fine on Xbox backward compatibility. It looked great too. Some remakes make the game look worse. Can't think of any examples. The graphics, shading, and textures were supposedly improved, but the lighting, adjusted from the original, which was specifically designed to complement the graphic style and power of the original consoles. In its quest to improve resolution and graphics, it completely destroyed the original's art direction and its mood and ambiance. These games are weird. Released out of order for some reason, they are plagued with bugs and barely improved graphically. Also, why are there so many names for these things? Remaster, remake, re-release, reboot, optimization, revival, HD, collection, now definitive edition. My head hurts. So many of these games would have benefited from a simple port to current-gen hardware, and some of them were. So why spend time reviving these games? Many don't need it, some are botched anyway, and some deserve to be left alone. Here's a crazy thought, why not spend the time and resources making a new game? Maybe reimagine those games, like Final Fantasy VII or the new Resident Evil remakes. They took the originals and created completely new games meant to be consumed in a different way. So few games that are re-released, remastered, remade, or reimagined are any different from the original, apart from few graphical upgrades, and sometimes not even that. The question has to be, does this game need to be remastered? When it was made, was it limited in scope, and did the original developers compromise their visions because of technical limitations? Remakes, when the graphics are marginally improved and there are very few cosmetic or quality of life improvements, are ultimately unnecessary. I will say that there are a few reasons where something like a remaster is a good thing. A good example of this is Black Mesa, the Half-Life remake. Allowing gamers to experience a game like Half-Life in a more consumer-friendly way is good, especially in situations where the original developers have disbanded or gone out of business, or in Half-Life's case, just don't seem to care. Allowing a modern audience play an older game made to look new brings new gamers into a community. Then there's other examples. What is GTA 5 now? A remaster, a remake, a re-release, a port, a reboot? Cash grab? Some people will have ended up buying GTA 5 3 times at least when it comes out next year on next-gen consoles. And it's the same game, and $60 every time. Isn't it somewhat predatory to evoke a gamer's nostalgia when they fork over $60 for a game that they've already played and may still even own? Should any updates be free if you own the original game? Something like Smart Delivery could be standard, not only for games released during this next-gen transition, but on all games in the future, and retroactive. Like with BioShock and Batman on Steam, they received a free upgrade when the remastered collections were released. So then you may ask, if developers just upgrade games for free, how can they pay for the remastering process? Well, that's a good question. I shall answer it with a question of my own, one that I've already asked. Why not just make a new game? Create a new IP that'll engage new gamers with your studio. Or at the very least, reboot the franchise with a new game. My point is, video games, like all art, gets remade. Movies get remakes, TV shows are rebooted, songs are re-recorded. There will always be remakes, remasters, and re-releases. But why are there so many now? Well, for a long time, games just weren't that good. They were a novelty, they were neat, a toy. Eventually, games moved to being more artistic and serious and much more universally appreciated. The last 25 years have been this transition. There are simply more good games. It makes sense, then, to look back and value those games by remaking them. Of course, the other argument is, use the foundation those games set to build something new. Aren't we supposed to be entering this new generation of gaming with the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5? Stop bringing 20-year-old games back to life. Let them be played only as a reminder of how far we've come. They bounced a pixel off of 2 bars so that we may shoot demons in the face and plant bags of money. When looking back, we should appreciate the history of gaming. And sure, that means sometimes breathing life into older games. But stop spending so much time on them. Just make them available, port them to current-gen hardware. There's no need to pretend that they were more than they are. And even the best remasters are pretty devoid of creativity and inspiration, partly because they must abide by the original game. They are wasted opportunities for great new games. I mean, imagine if instead of a 1-to-1 remake of Destroy All Humans, they made an open-world sequel, or a reboot, or an Assassin's Creed that revisits Ezio's story, a Mafia sequel that followed the originals. An actual reboot of the Tony Hawk series, not a nostalgia-inducing reskin. Or, a sequel that's been on everybody's mind for over a decade. One that could resolve a cliffhanger and finish the story, like they said they would, by using chapters to get new games out faster, but instead they make a prequel on hardware that very few people have, and most just watch someone else play. And now we're gonna have to wait another 15 years to get a glimmer of hope that it's actually being made, and let alone going to be released. And when it is released, it's probably going to be on the same expensive hardware, so that not everyone will be able to play it either. So yeah, Destroy All Humans, 3 out of 5.